Hi everyone. In this video, I want to focus a little more on the concept of cures and remedies of disease and how our understanding of this changes when we understand the 5 biological laws of nature. So from studying the laws, we understand that disease is not a malfunction, but basically a survival mechanism consisting of changes that the body makes in response to a trauma to help us in coping with that trauma. Therefore, if we understand that disease is not a malfunction, as we are brought up to believe, then we first need to ask ourselves, do we actually need to cure it? What is a cure anyway? Well, according to the dictionary definition, a cure makes someone with an illness healthy again. So we understand that the body will put the changes it has made back to normal once the trauma or conflict has been resolved. In other words, it will heal itself. So based on the dictionary definition, the body is its own cure. And if you want to be specific, I guess you could say the resolution of the conflict is what cures disease, as that is what triggers the healing. So this means we have the cure, we are the cure, and we don't actually need any other cure for disease. But what about all these miracle substances, natural cures that appear to kill disease or cancer cells even, and so forth? Well, let's have a look at some of these with the foundation of the biological laws. So here's the compass as a refresher. So we know that the majority of symptoms happen in the healing phase of disease, and there are hardly any symptoms in the conflict active phase. We also know that the state of non-stress, called vagatonia, where the parasympathetic nervous system is dominant, is needed for healing. Anything that has a stimulating effect on the body or causes the body any degree of excitement or stress reduces and sometimes even stops this vagatonic state, thereby stopping or slowing down healing. Some substances, natural and otherwise, have such a stimulating effect, or maybe cause so much stress on the system, you could put it that way, that they even move back into conflict active phase where there are no symptoms. And this gives the impression that it has cured the disease, whereas in fact all it has done is stopped healing. Remember, symptoms are our healing. Without symptoms, we are not healing. Unless we're not in a biological program, then obviously we are just well. So an example of this could be a rash. And if we treat this with steroid cream, which is highly stimulating, it causes the program to move back to the conflict active phase where there is no rash. So the rash disappears, making it appear that the cream has cured the rash. But then if you don't put more cream on, the body will go back into healing, create another rash, and you'll have to put more cream on and then it'll go back, and you're creating a loop in the program. We can have a similar loop created when using anti-inflammatories regularly, preventing the body from creating its protective fluid environment for healing to take place in. And there are many other examples of this. So let's look at something more serious, such as a tumour. Now, conventionally, this would be treated with chemotherapy, and this is highly stimulating. So if the tumour had grown in the healing phase of a new brain program, then chemo would put the body back into conflict active where there is cell loss. Do you remember in the compass, the conflict active phase of new brain programs, there is cell loss, and then there is cell replenishment, which is where the tumour is created in the healing phase. So therefore, if the body has gone back into conflict active, where there is the cell loss, the tumour would reduce. But this means it will go back into healing in the future because it's still in the programme. And this is why many cancers come back. If the tumour was part of an old brain programme and therefore had grown in the conflict active phase, if you remember conflict active phase, you have cell growth and then you have cell removal in the healing phase, then the chemo will take the body back to conflict active phase where there is cell growth. And this will cause the tumour to increase in size and even sometimes in number as well. This explains why sometimes chemo makes things worse and sometimes it makes things better. Well, only temporarily better. So almost all medications have a similar effect on symptoms, but those that are stimulating in particular are steroids, antihistamines, Ritalin, SSRIs, which are many antidepressants, morphine, amphetamines, antibiotics and anti-inflammatories. Some natural substances that are deemed cures also work in this way, so you really need to be careful. For example, taking anything in excess will generally have a stimulating effect on the system, because you're basically overburdening the system and causing stress. This causes this false cure effect, and a perfect example of this is high dose intravenous vitamin C. This actually has a very stimulating effect and will put programs back into conflict active phase. Stimulating herbs, sometimes used for healing, also can have this effect, such as chili, cayenne pepper, ginseng and echinacea. There is also cannabis, but I want to look at this in a little bit more depth. Now, cannabis has plant compounds called cannabinoids. The most commonly known are THC, which produces the high, and CBD, which is its kind of balancing antagonist. Without going into too much detail in this video, THC is stimulating and CBD is sedating. This is the opposite. So looking at this through the laws, THC alone can cause symptoms to disappear as it can put the program back into conflict active. In the case of a tumour, it could cause a tumour to reduce by putting the body back into conflict active if it's in a new brain program. But this means the symptoms or the tumour can return in the future when the body does resume healing. It also explains why some people have experienced tumours to rapidly grow in size and number when they have taken high THC oil. These are mainly thought of as hormone-driven cancers, such as glandular breast cancer and prostate cancers. These are the main sort of cancers that have had this effect. But these are mainly found in old brain programs, so it makes sense when we look at this through GNM in that way as well. And CBD is very supportive to the healing phase and also can calm the conflict active phase, though it wouldn't resolve a conflict as that only happens in the psyche. Now, I'm not denying the powerful support that full spectrum cannabis can offer, but what I will say is that there needs to be the right balance of THC and CBD. When used in the right way, cannabis can be very supportive to healing. So we need to remember two things from this. Symptoms are our healing. So if we stop symptoms, we stop healing. And if something appears to cure a disease, just ask yourself, is it actually stopping my healing? Of course, there are many ways we can support and sometimes even speed up the healing process, and I'll be looking at using remedies and herbs and other things in ways that support healing in another video. But for now, I really hope that this has helped you to understand the concept of cure when we take into account the biological laws. Thank you for watching.